Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. I am Tabitha Hassell. Great to see everyone this morning. Hopefully, everyone had a great night. Can't believe it's already episode 5. That's crazy. I didn't think I'd get through the first two. So, even though things have been a little rough, we're definitely getting there. A lot more to go. Hopefully, today I won't have any of the same technical issues I had yesterday. If I do, please let me know in the chat line. I think I have isolated the problem, and I think it'll be smooth sailing from here on out. At least I hope so. Definitely been a challenge, but thank you everyone for being so patient with me as I navigate how to produce and host my own podcast. It's a learning experience, I think, for me and probably everyone else. But there's so much to talk about today. I actually feel like today is probably a bigger news day than so many others because there's so much going on today. We have people asking for proof of life over Biden. That's something we're going to talk about. Lauren Boebert asked to see proof of life of Biden's existence yesterday before 5 p.m. Did we see that? Nah, I'm not convinced we did. We're going to talk about Kammie. I mean, Kammie appears to have the nomination. We're going to get into that. I want to talk about uh, reprogramming. I spend a lot of time, I have a lot of Democrat friends, I have a lot of liberal friends, and I feel like they live very much like we do. I hate that there's so much political divide, but I also wonder, how did the political divide happen? How did we come over here or there or over there? How did all of this come to be? And it's not just Democrats and liberals. There are so many people in our country who have been programmed. So I want to talk about that. Have you heard of Operation Paperclip? We're going to get into that a little bit. We see celebrities speak out all the time about politicians. Typically, they're talking about their love for Democrat politicians, their hatred for Trump, and all of us crazy conservatives. So Dave Portnoy spoke out. I was kind of surprised because I've never, I watch his pizza reviews. Some of you probably watch his sports. I'm more watching his pizza reviews. I'm not too into sports, but I was kind of surprised at his statement. So we're going to play that clip. There's just, like I said, there's so much going on. I want to talk about Russia. I haven't talked about Russia in quite some time. There's a lot going on just all around the world, not just here locally, not just here in the United States, but all around the world. There's so many challenges we are facing right now. I feel like our country is just one big giant dumpster fire. And then we have so much going on around the world that really is worse than what we have going on here. Sometimes I feel lucky when I see foreign news that we are truly living in one of the greatest countries ever, any of us could have ever imagined. And it's unfortunate. We have to be very careful or we're going to lose that country. But something I wanted to point out, of course, we have the Biden phone call into uh, the to talk to Harris. That's just crazy. A lot of people, of course, speculating, was it AI? Was it really Biden? Was it a pre-recorded call? I'm going to play that and we're going to get into that. But first of all, something I really wanted to get into because I I am really surprised by this, and I'm really not sure even what to think about it. So yesterday, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert made this statement. She put it out on social media for all to see. It said, Representative Lauren Boebert demands proof of life from Joe Biden by 5 p.m. today, meaning yesterday. This is what Lauren said. He needs to get in front of some camera and discuss if he's aware that he dropped out. Hiding is completely unacceptable. But then things get stranger. So, not just Lauren Boebert, but then we have Charlie Kirk. Now, this is a little bit long, but I'm going to read the post that Charlie Kirk made. Many of you probably have seen this already. I've interviewed Charlie Kirk. I've met Charlie Kirk. He is someone to take seriously. And he would not post this if he didn't really think maybe something's going on. So, Charlie Kirk says, I got a weird lead on a story that people should look into. I got a call from a source close to Las Vegas Metro. The official story was that Joe Biden's trip was cut short last week due to COVID. However, according to the source, U.S. Secret Service informed Las Vegas Metro that there was an emergency situation involving Joe Biden that would involve closing the streets so that Joe Biden could be transported immediately to University Medical, which they began to do in earnest. Then, mysteriously, there was a stand down order, and the Secret Service informed local Vegas PD that they were going to medevac Biden to Johns Hopkins, which they presumed meant fly him back east ASAP. Apparently, the rumor mill in the police department was that Joe Biden is dying or possibly already did die. And then Charlie Kirk goes on to say, I didn't think too much about this. It seemed too wild to be true, yes. But given that Joe Biden has been out of the public sight for days, dropped out of the race via an ex post, and his brother James indicated health was a factor, I'm beginning to grow more curious if COVID or something else has been more serious than reported. So I think that's a very interesting statement because Charlie Kirk is hearing this straight out of the Las Vegas Police Department. And I think we all know that Joe Biden was in Las Vegas for a campaign event. He canceled that event because he found out, was tested positive for COVID. And I'm not sure if any of you remember, but Kamala Harris had tested positive for COVID just a short time ago. So I am wondering if Kamala Harris had COVID, gave it to Joe Biden, if anybody really had COVID. I mean, it's sad to say, can you really trust anything any Democrat says anymore? Not Democrats we know, but Democrat politicians. And I'm going to say, no, we cannot. And then, and then to continue on with that, I saw another post from the Global Press that said breaking. A verified source has informed Global Press team that Joe Biden is currently in hospice care and is unlikely to survive the night. So what is going on? Is Joe Biden alive? Is he not alive? I really don't know. I think it seems pretty preposterous and pretty unusual to think that Joe Biden's not alive. And I wouldn't you think that that they would have to tell us? If it weren't for Democrat politicians, I would say yes, they would have to inform the public because as of right now, obviously, Joe Biden is still the president of the United States. And if he has passed away, if he's in critical condition, they need to let us know. Jay Saunders, his resignation from the presidential race was typed out on letterhead, but not on official presidential letterhead out of the White House. Kim, I feel like something nefarious is taking place. So do I. Jay, supposedly he called the Harris campaign. He did call the Harris campaign yesterday. I'm going to play that video here in a few moments because I really want you to judge for yourself. I read a poll. There were several people polled, an anonymous poll. About 2,000 people were polled. 60% of those people thought that it was an AI voice. And I really think that we need to remember what technology does these days. Technology can do anything. And I know because me creating this podcast, I use a lot of different forms of technology. I use, I have not made an AI video, but I know that I can make an AI video. That's something that we can do. So I know it's possible for him to put his voice in, and then all of a sudden, you can hear Joe Biden's voice, and they can program in anything they want. If you go to a system, it's an app called InVideo. If you go to InVideo, you will see that on InVideo, you can put in a snapshot of your voice, and then you can type in anything you want. And then it will take your voice, and then it will create this video of you or a voice recording of you with your own voice saying anything you wanted to say. So nothing is off the table. So Kim says they're demanding that we tell them if it was Republican. If it was a Republican and it was Trump, oh my gosh, yes. But Democrats play by different rules, don't they? Democrat politicians, I want to stress, play by different rules. So I'm going to play that clip really quick, and we're going to hear the call, and then you guys let me know what you think.
Let's listen into President Biden calling into this campaign event.
Keep me out of people's hair for the next 3 or 4 days, but I'm going to be on the road, and I'm not going anywhere. It's kept me away a little bit, but I want people to remember that what we have done has been incredible, and we get so much more we're going to get done. And so I want to say hello to Kamala if she can hear me. I know she's going to be speaking shortly. And I want to say to the team, embrace her. She's the best. I want to call today to thank everybody in this effort. I know yesterday's news was surprising, and it was hard for you to hear, but it was the right thing to do. I know it's hard because you poured your heart and soul into me to help us win this thing, help me get this nomination, help me win the nomination, and then go on to win the presidency. But you know, you're an amazing team. But we've got a great. I think we made the right decision. I know how hard you've worked, how many sacrifices you made, and so many of you uprooted your lives for me, and the kind of commitment few people make for anything these days, but you made it. And I've been honored and humbled. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. My word is a Biden, that for all you've done for me and my family. And we built the best campaign in organization in history. I've been doing this, I always kid and say, I know I'm only 40, but I've been around a long time. I don't know of a better campaign organization, grassroots campaign. You know, we have over 230 offices opened. We have over 2,000 paid staff. And we have literally several thousand volunteers on a regular basis, thousands of them. And they've been relentless and tireless in reaching out and contacting voters. The leadership of this campaign has been amazing. Jen O'Malley Dillon, Julie Quinn, Michael Tyler, Rob Flaherty, Rufus on raising money, and so many more. You built this team, you brought them together, you brought us together, you've inspired them, and you've done what leaders do. Now we got to, you know, the name has changed at the top of the ticket, but the mission hasn't changed at all. And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell, both as a sitting president, getting legislation passed, as well as in campaigning. You know, what we still need to save this democracy. And Trump is still a danger to the community. He's a danger to the nation. And just ask my foreign policy colleagues, my counterparts, and other people around the world and at home. Look, so I'm hoping you'll give every bit of your heart and soul that you gave to me to Kamala. And I want you to know, I won't be on the ticket, but I'm still going to be fully engaged. I've got 6 months left in my presidency. I'm determined to get as much done as I possibly can, both foreign policy and domestic policy. Keep lowering costs for families, continue to speak out on guns and child care, elder care, prescription drugs, and climate. Climate still is the existential threat that we face, and if we don't win this thing, it's all in jeopardy. And we got to keep working for an end to the war in Gaza. I'll be working very closely with the Israelis and with the Palestinians to try to work out how we can get the Gaza war to end and Middle East peace and get all those hostages home. I think we're on a verge of being able to do that. And we got to keep our alliances together. It's critically important. It took a while for me to build these alliances. Most of these my colleagues have acknowledged that, but it's critically important for our safety and security. And I know I'll be doing whatever Kamala wants me or needs me to do in addition. So let me be real clear. We're still fighting in this fight together. I'm not going anywhere. And I want you to know you've always had my back. And I promise you, I will always have your back. And I'm anxious for you all to hear from Kamala. So thank you, Julie. You're the best.
What do you think? Is that AI? I mean, Brian says sounds like AI to me. Kim says his speech was slurred a little bit. Joe, he will continue to be in pain. Yes, he does lie a lot. Dottie, thank you, Amy, for the link. Sorry, that was something else. So I think it's AI. That is my personal assessment. Is I believe that was an AI phone call, because if you really listen, if you ever make a video or a soundbite of yourself in AI, it does sound like your voice, but the pitch doesn't change much like it would in real life. I mean, in real life, when you talk, your pitch changes on different words. In AI, it kind of stays the same. And what they can do is they may have taken a clip of Joe Biden's voice when he was sounding a little groggy, which he does most of the time. And then that is what they base the AI on. And the AI will just continue on talking, in his voice, but in the words they put. So Roberta said it's a good dupe, just enough stuttering to make it almost believable. And that's what I was kind of thinking too. And Linda, too smooth for him. I think it's too smooth for him also. And now it could be that they took bits and pieces and pasted it together. With technology, we can do that too. But with AI, you can even have them put in a stutter. There's so many different things you can do with AI. It is crazy. So is Joe Biden alive? Is he not alive? Is he in hospice care and on death's door? I don't know. And quite honestly, I don't wish that on him. I feel bad for Joe Biden. I think that it's elder abuse. What has this man went through? What has his family put him through? The way I see it is that they pushed him up on this stage. I don't even know if he cared about being president, if he even knew what was going on, but I think they really saw him as a dangling carrot. They could put him up there. He could say anything they wanted him to say to some degree. They could, if any of you have ever dealt with or cared for an elderly person, especially someone with dementia or other cognitive impairments, it's very easy to get them to say certain things because they're really trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to figure out what to say. They don't always know what's going on around them, and it's very easy to convince them of a certain situation. And it's really terrible. It's elder abuse. I am no fan of Joe Biden. I don't like his policies. I don't hate the guy by any means. I don't hate him. And I really think that it's really a shame that he wasn't able to retire gracefully, go into retirement, live at his home in Delaware, do what he needed to do and relax a little bit. Instead, no, he's allegedly pumped full of drugs, pushed up on a stage, has no idea where he's at, no idea where he's going. He looks like a fool much of the time. And I feel like Jill's complicit. She seems like she's right there pushing him. That's just my opinion. Amy says definitely elder abuse and sad. Anything for Democrat power. That's exactly right. Anything for Democrat power. Jay Saunders says, I think something happened. His staff didn't even know he was dropping out of the race. And that is absolutely true. His staff had no idea. And that's what's so crazy about, at least that's what we're told. Do we really know? I mean, who knows? The propaganda machine feeds us all types of information. And I think it's really difficult to decipher what's real and what's not real. And we are told that none of his staffers knew that he was going to drop out. And that all of a sudden they found out when we did, when they saw the post on X that said he was dropping out. And what I find really strange is that Newsmax, just 5 days ago, and Newsmax, they're in the know, just like so many of the other media companies are. Newsmax said that they had some inside information that Joe Biden was going to step down out of the race, drop out of the race. However, he was not going to support Kamala Harris. He was not going to give her an endorsement. And so that is kind of what made me think, well, maybe there is a little bit more to canceling the Las Vegas campaign, having COVID. COVID is still a very serious illness for a lot of people, particularly an elderly person. It's very reasonable to assume that Joe Biden, if he in fact does have COVID, could have gone downhill very quickly. It could have affected him very severely. He is an elderly man. He's obviously frail. He was frail when he stepped into the White House, let alone what he's like now. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm curious what all of you think because I'm not really sure. I feel like it would be very difficult for them to pull that over on the American public. I think that they would lose so much credibility if anyone found out that that's what they did. However, can you put anything past them? I can't. I don't. The Democrats in our community, a lot of them are good people. They live just like we do. They're happy. They're programmed, however, I don't know, to vote for someone like Biden or Harris. I don't understand it any more than you do. However, I guess we'll get into that when we talk about Operation Paperclip. But the Democrats that surround Biden, that surround Obama, these people are, I mean, they're seriously evil. I don't put anything past them. Kim says, I wouldn't put it past them. They're desperate. They are desperate. Tara, we got a glowing report from his doctor, though. Of course. And, and speaking of his doctor, I thought this was kind of interesting, too. And this is what you're talking about. The physician to the president. of the White House. Memorandum 4, this is for his little fluffy headed assistant for the White House press secretary, from Kevin O'Connor, physician to the president. Subject: President Biden COVID update. This was dated July 22nd, 2024. Now, according to the White House physician, which it could be, trust me, just as much involved in any kind of sham as anyone else. So, President Biden completed his 10th dose of Paxlovid this morning. His symptoms have almost resolved completely. His pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and temperature remain absolutely normal. His oxygen saturation continues to be excellent on room air. His lungs remain clear. The president continues to perform all of his presidential duties. Of course, they had to put that in there. I will continue to keep your office updated with any changes in his condition or treatment plan. So this was a official letter from Kevin O'Connor, the physician of Biden, to the press secretary. And does that mean anything? No, it doesn't mean anything at all. So Jay says, White House doctor reports whatever they tell him to. Yes, they absolutely do. Dottie says she smells a Bernie Sanders move coming. Jay, I think they are untouchable. Well, you know what? They are untouchable, quite honestly. They are untouchable because, we outnumber them by far, but yet we are unable to do a darn thing. And why is that? Because it's only us, the people that care. The people in Congress who represent us, they don't care. Outside of Lauren Boebert, nobody else is saying a whole lot of anything. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. But here's something else I thought was kind of fascinating. And this may mean absolutely nothing, but I think the timing is very interesting. Is that also yesterday on July 22nd, the White House drafted up a memorandum, and now they call it the Memorandum on the Delegation of Certain Functions and Authorities under the Rebuilding Economic Prosperity and Opportunity for Ukrainians Act. Now, a couple of things we have to remember. When Democrats want to sneak something in, they also sometimes create these documents. And when they do, they can title it anything they want because obviously they want to throw us off. And so it wouldn't be surprising to me for them to create this type of memorandum and then throw all kinds of crazy stuff in there because they do it all the time. So some of the wording in here I thought was kind of interesting in this memorandum. Some of that wording says, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Section 301 of Title III United States Code, I hereby order as follows. Section 1A, I hereby delegate to the Secretary of the Treasury the functions and authorities vested in the President by Sections 104, it goes on to name the sections, of the Rebuilding Economic and Prosperity Act. Then it says the delegations in this memorandum shall apply to any provisions of any future public laws that are the same or substantially the same as those provisions referenced in this memorandum. The Secretary of the Treasury is authorized and directed to publish this memorandum in the Federal Register. Signed, not signed though, typed. It was typed. There was no signature. Joseph R. Biden Jr. So what does this mean? Does it mean anything? Is this just something to do with Ukraine? Is he truly transferring his power as president to the Secretary of State? I mean, that's how it sounds. That's how it sounds. I mean, when you transfer your presidential responsibilities to the Secretary of State, can you do that for just a couple of things? Can you do it? It sounds to me like it's for everything. So that's something to think about. What does that mean? Jay, if they get caught, if it's true, they can spin it to make it sound like it was national security to prevent our enemies from responding aggressively. Yes. Linda, I also saw those posts and have been wondering if Joe and Kamala gets in, then the speaker is next. That's true. And it's unfortunate that we have to sit here and talk about it because they do so much crazy stuff. How do we know? And then we got to start thinking, Well, if Joe Biden is incapacitated, if Joe Biden is dead, which I don't think he is, but let's just say he is, that changes everything. That changes everything. And I don't know specifically how that would change what's going on right now, how that would change the nomination. I don't know. But I do think that there's a lot of ways to look at that. And I think that they're going to spin it any way they want. We have no choice but to believe what they say. They own the media. They tell the media what to say and when to say it. But when I hear people like Charlie Kirk talking about this type of thing, then I think we have to listen. I really think we have to listen. And I wanted to go and let's see here and talk about, I want to talk about a little bit about Joe Biden and what we can expect. Okay, so he's obviously not coming forward and making any video statements. He only made this post on X. What I don't understand is that when he made the call into Harris, into her campaign events, supporting Kamala Harris, why didn't he do a video call? I mean, if he's okay and he's fine, why wasn't it a video call? Why was it voice? Why was it voice only? These days, it's so simple. It's so easy to make a video call. I don't understand. Jay says, I don't think they wanted Harris because of her approval was lower than Biden's, but now they have no choice if she's about to become president for the remainder of the term. I agree. I really, I, I I'm so beyond words right now because it clearly looks like Harris has the nomination. She has the presumed nomination. She is a much weaker opponent than Biden is. And Kim says, I don't think he's dead. I think he could potentially be in critical condition. That's kind of how I feel too. I think if I had to guess, if I had to speculate, I think he's alive. I think he could be completely incapacitated. And why they don't just tell us that, I don't know. Probably because they're always playing a dirty trick. So I want to show you how Harris responded after Biden's call. This just cracks me up. And I think you'll feel the same way.
Joe, are you watching? You hear this clapping? Can you see it?
I'm watching. I'm watching.
I know.
How can you not laugh at that? Is this somebody you see leading your country? I mean, she's like a clapping seal. I don't understand it. How are we supposed to look at her and take her seriously as the president of our country? I don't even know how Democrats can look at her and take her seriously. And I don't know that all of them are. I mean, yes, she has the presumed nomination, but does that mean everything? It doesn't. It doesn't, because what we have to remember is when they get to the DNC convention, which is August 19th through I believe it's the 22nd, anything can happen. And the way things are going right now, anything can happen between now and the convention. Anything can happen. But not everyone is on Kamala's side, because I thought this was interesting. There's so many people stepping forward and talking, and we also have the Forbes poll. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. So there was and of course, I'm not a big poll believer, but they did a poll, and this was from Harris. Let's see here. This was called the Harris X Forbes poll. And in this poll, let's see here. Trump, 50%, Kamala, 41%. So she's even polling lower than Trump is right now. And not everyone does support her. There's been some people who have really spoken out against Harris as well. And here we have John Morgan. Are you familiar with John Morgan? He is the founder of the Morgan and Morgan law firm, and he has been a major Democrat donor over the years, donating millions to the Democrat Party. And this is a post that he made. I believe this was yesterday, and he absolutely does not support Harris. He said, if Trump could pick anybody to run against, I think they'd pick her. You have to be enthusiastic or hoping for a political appointment. I mean, he says Joe Biden's endorsement of Kamala is his FU to all who pushed him out. I mean, could that be true? Could it be true? Let's see here. Could Joe Biden have endorsed her as an FU to Democrats? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I kind of thought that yesterday when I was thinking about Harris getting the nomination, and I have to say, I have been completely wrong. I really expected somebody to come out of the wings and say, hey, I'm going to add my name to the ballot, count me in, vote for me. And people kept telling me that's not going to happen. It legally can happen, but people kept telling me that's never going to happen. You know, it's going to be Kamala, it's going to be her, it's going to be Harris. So I thought there's no way in a million years. Democrats, if they're anything, they're not really stupid. You know, they've managed to elude us for a couple of elections, and so I kept thinking that can't possibly be. But then yesterday, when I heard Pelosi endorse Harris, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. You know, then Hakeem Jeffries, I know he wanted to meet with her first. He gave a speech endorsing her basically without using those words. Obama is what I'm hearing with Obama is that he never endorses anyone. He's not going to endorse Harris. He never endorsed Biden. I always thought back in 2020 he didn't endorse Biden because it's rumored that they don't get along. And I don't know anything about Obama's relationship with Harris. I've actually, from what I can recall, I've never really seen them together. Harris has probably been one of the vice presidents we've had that has been completely non-existent outside of her disastrous, you know, attempts at controlling the border. I don't even see her. I've not seen her anywhere. I don't know what she's doing. There's been a lot of rumors. She's just an email pusher. I don't know. I do not know. Kim says she's only on the ticket now because she knows where all the bodies are buried. That's probably true. Jay Netanyahu was not greeted by anyone upon arrival at the airport. No Harris, no Biden. Well, I think we know why. Let's see, Pam. They gave him a sweet deal to exit. No prison for Hunter. We won't prosecute you for several different reasons. I will bet anything that Joe Biden got a nice big fat paycheck for stepping down. And not for him, because he probably doesn't even know yet that he has stepped out. But probably Jill and the rest of their family are all going to benefit from that. But how is Harris going to do up against Trump? Because eventually they're going to have a debate, right? And I cannot personally wait for that debate. I cannot wait. I think it is going to be absolutely hilarious. Linda says if Obama didn't pick her, then who? The Bidens didn't like her. Honestly, I don't know, Linda. The only thing I can think is if for some reason Biden did become incapacitated, then they probably felt like they had no choice because eventually we're all going to find out. And so I really feel like whatever happened to push Harris into this role was something that they absolutely had no choice over. Because I know they're all jumping behind her enthusiastically, but that is all an act because that's what they do. And they've been so much better at it than we as conservatives are. They have a candidate, and whether they like them or not, they will show their support. They will jump behind someone and they will show their support. And I really think that that's what happened here. Something happened. It pushed her to the forefront. They had absolutely no choice but to do this. And they were probably maybe hoping they'd have a different outcome. It didn't happen. And guess what? Now it's very likely going to be Harris. And I want to give you a little bit of an excerpt of what we can expect. Do you guys remember when Harris was actually running for president and she was the first one out, she had 0 votes. No one. She was literally, when they started the debates, remember that season? When they started the debates and she was the first person out. So I'm going to play a little bit of a clip here of Harris so we'll know exactly. This will be a good memory for all of us.
He said because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
Yep.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the fact. Yeah, I'm about to. $400,000
He said he's
a
going to
year.
repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well,
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth.
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
Isn't that annoying? Can you imagine having to listen to that all the time? All the time? She's gonna sit with Netanyahu. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Don't talk over me. I'm speaking. She will drive me freaking nuts. So I don't know what to think about. Ryan says, how can she debate when all she does is cackle? I don't know how she can debate. And you know, I understand. I do absolutely think, and I've said this many times before, that Harris is an intelligent person. We don't see it. I don't know why we don't see it, if they don't want us to see it, or maybe she's truly not. But, you know, I think she got to where she was, well, maybe for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is I do think that she managed to, when she was in California being the attorney general, I think she did a good job to some degree. She got a lot of people off the streets, not necessarily the right people, but a lot of people. And but I cannot handle her. I can't listen to her voice. I don't want to hear her cackle. I can't even look at her with any type of respect at all. Am I the only one? You know, am I a terrible person for saying this, that I have such little respect for her? And, you know, even Biden, I had more respect for Biden. At one time, Biden, you know, was intelligent. It's not his fault that he's cognitively impaired and that these people pushed him up on the stage to make him act like their little puppet. But I don't think I can handle it. It's kind of funny, but you know, I've joked around about, well, if this person gets elected, I'm moving out of the country. But I really, truly can't see so many of us living under a Harris rule. And so, what I really wonder is what's going to happen? You know, hopefully nothing happens between now with Trump. Trump will hopefully continue on. He's got the nomination. He will continue on and we'll at least have a fair election. Is that going to happen? Probably not. Probably not. I'm going to try to do something different. Then I'm going to share my screen because I want to play a video. And I've not shared my screen before, so bear with me while I do this. I think it'll work out fine. But if you want to know, what does the Black community think? Now, I'm going to play a video. I'm not going to say that this person represents the entire Black community because I certainly know it doesn't. But I do think things are changing. I think people are waking up and they're realizing Democrats, you know what? They have been in power for a very long time and they have done absolutely nothing for the Black community, nothing but hold people back. And I really want to play this for you guys. So hopefully I will be able to share my screen and we can get this going. Let's see here. Just bear with me a second. I will find it. Okay, here we go.
But one of the things I want to say, I'm Pastor David Lowry, Universal Baptist Church. One of the things that I want to say is this, to the American people and patriots across this country. Black people have been with the Democratic Party for over 60 years, and we have nothing. We don't own anything in our community. We have no schools. There's no businesses in the Black community. All we have is crime and problems. So as a pastor, I'm standing up here with Bob Ferretti and some of the other Black leaders. The truth of the matter is this. Why should Black people keep voting for the Democrats when they don't have nothing? We need to understand this. We need to go and take a look at the Republican Party, but the Republican Party needs to be visual and need to do things in the Black community. If we do that, we can make the change. We already know the Democrats are not going to do nothing. I'm the grandson of Eloise Barton, the second lady ever elected to the City Council of Chicago, 16th Ward. And now what we see, there's nothing that the Democrats have done or will they do across this country for Black people but use us. So why not Black people? Let us give the Republicans a chance to show what they can do for our communities as well.
Have Republicans done that, or are you still searching?
No, there's no search. The Republicans have reached out for a lot of the Black leaders like myself, Brother Carter, Paul McKinley, and we've sat down with them and we started to talk. I've been talking to Mr. Porter and some of the other leaders on how we can start getting together. But let this be clear. As a contractor for the Heritage Foundation during the primary season, we sent teams out to the polling places in the Black community. And we found exactly what President Trump was talking about. We found thumb drives. We found the printers. We found Democratic judges who was posing as Republican judges. So it's the polls that's being inundated with the cheating. We have receipts for everything I've said. I also saw in those polling places where the Democrats were telling people that there are no Republican ballots. There's so many things going on in these polling places in the black community, and that's how the Democrats are able to keep and say Chicago is blue. But actually, if the polling places were straight, black people would have an opportunity to vote for whom they choose, not whom they told to. And if the polling places aren't straight, they'll try to steal another election like they did in 2020.
But
so that's why I'm here.
What makes you believe that Republicans will keep their word any more than you believe the Democrats did not?
Well, no, let me answer that.
Some of us are elected.
No.
Black folks are elected.
Let me answer that for you. Let me answer that for you, okay? This is a simple fact right here. Of 60 years of Democrat rule, black people need to change. We need to give the Republicans a chance to see what they can do, because we have not done that. Had we done that, we wouldn't be in this condition. So that's why I'm here.
Right.
Can you spell your name? Yeah, can you spell your name?
Were you guys able to see that video? Hopefully you did. And yes, you're right, Joe. Wow. Because that covers a lot of different topics, doesn't it? And that's why I was saying the other day, I think that was yesterday, when it comes to our elections, we have to get out into these Democrat smart strongholds, and we have to volunteer. I know for a fact that there were several places in 2020 in Democrat urban areas where they had no poll watchers. They had no officials coming in because no one wanted to go into some of these neighborhoods. Well, we have to do that. We have to make sure we do go into these polling locations. Some of them are not in the best neighborhoods. Some of them are, but we have to go in and we have to volunteer or sign up to get paid, whatever it is you want to do, and go into these polling locations, because we desperately need people. We've got to stay on task for this 2024 election. We have no choice. Joe says nothing changed in 60 years in those communities. I know, and I'm glad to hear him speak up. And I think there's so many other people who feel exactly like he does. They think, you know what, this isn't working for me. What's going on in my community is not working for me. Let's try something new. Now, on the flip side of that, I also know there's a lot of people in the Black community who absolutely do not feel that way. They absolutely do not feel that way. So we still have a lot of way. We have a long way to go. However, how do you feel about what he said about, again, about the polling locations? How can we get ahead if this is actually happening? I mean, I think we all know this is happening. This man says he saw it with his own eyes. He was there. He witnessed it. Is anything being done? No. And when we come around to this election and, for 2024, is anything going to change? And the answer is going to be no. There are no safeguards in place to prevent that from happening again. It very well will happen again. And the only thing I can suggest is that we get out and man these polls and do our best to make sure it doesn't happen. It's not easy. I know in 2020, there were a lot of election folks that went out, volunteers, some people that were paid, some, election, even judges who went to these different polling locations. They weren't even allowed in. They had, some of them put newspapers or other plastic up, along the wall, the windows, so nobody could even see inside. They weren't even letting them in the door. And how do we overcome that? I don't think we can. And so it really worries me here in the upcoming election that it's not going to be a fair election. I think we all have that on mind. It's clearly not only me. And Joe says we have to fight, have to fight the cheat. But how do we fight the cheat? That's what I don't know. How do we fight it? Because we, the people, we're not in any position of power. Outside of us volunteering our own time, what can we really do? We obviously go to the polls and we try to elect the best local leaders that we can find. And we hope that our local leaders stand up for us and do what they need to do. But in some of these areas, we don't have anyone. The local leaders there are the people doing the cheating. So how do we overcome that? I don't think we can. And that's why, does it really matter that Harris is the weaker candidate? Does it even matter? Joe Biden was the weaker candidate. Do you truly believe that Joe Biden got the votes that they said he had? Of course not. Uh, I think we all know what took place, and I think playing that video showed us exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. Pam says the Black community should be outraged that they are being used by Democrats. I think some feel that way, and I think some don't. And we have to also remember that when we talk about people who care and people who speak out, that's going to be the minority of people, because let's just face it, whether you are Republican, independent, libertarian, Democrat, whatever, wherever you fall, the majority of people do not care. The majority of people absolutely do not care about politics. They don't care who wins. They're not even going to go out and vote. Look at the voter turnout. As a matter of fact, I just read another poll that said that when I think they polled, was it 10,000 people? You guys might know this before me. They polled quite a few folks, and they determined that only 3 out of 5 Democrats would vote for Harris. If that is the case, 3 out of 5, that's not going to win her the presidency. 3 out of 5 would not win it. But that's not how our system works now, is it? It doesn't really matter that only 3 out of 5. If we truly went 3 out of 5, she would not win. She would have absolutely no chance whatsoever. State to state, she would have no chance. But that's not going to be how it plays out, is it? I really don't know that we're ever going to be able to get ahead, or that we're ever going to have a winning situation. Jay says, I think Democrat leaders, by helping illegals with food, money, housing, have opened the eyes of a lot of these people in the poorer neighborhoods. I hope so. I really do hope so. I really hope so. I lived at downtown in the city of St. Louis in a loft for 4 years. I lived in South City for a couple of years. I saw firsthand what it looks like to live in the epicenter of a rural area. I mean, rural, gosh, that's where I'm at now. Urban area, and predominantly Black. And I saw the way a lot of these people live. Go through parts of North St. Louis, wherever you live, there is an area in your city that is a very populated urban area where there's high crime. And it's unfortunate that usually those areas are predominantly Black. And why? I hope that Black people ask themselves, why is it? Why is this the case? Now, of course, in the rural areas, the poorest areas are predominantly white. So most of those people, though, are voting conservative, are voting Republican. And I really wish the Black communities would open their eyes and see that Democrats they're not there for you. And I really hope to have some Black Americans on, people from the Black community, to talk about exactly that from both sides of the fence, because it's a learning experience for me. I want to know what makes you continue to vote Democrat when they're doing nothing to help you. Because I'll tell you why, even though old Kammie here in the city of St. Louis is no longer in the circuit attorney's office, what she did there, that hurt those people in the community the most. The people that old Kammie was not, I'm speaking of Kim Gardner, for those who don't know, St. Louis City prosecuting attorney Kim Gardner, all those people she let loose on the streets. I mean, come on, all that did was hurt the Black community, because the people they were attacking were the people within the community. I don't know. I feel like we're just in a hopeless situation. And to your point, Jay, with the illegals, I would think if you're in a position where you're living week to week, you're struggling to find food to feed your kids, you're trying to get by, you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your rent, and then all of a sudden, and this doesn't matter what color or race you are, because there are people in this country struggling, of all races, of all nationalities. And if you're one of those people who are struggling, whether you're in a rural area or an urban area, and you're barely getting by, you're worried where your next meal is coming from, you're worried where you're going to sleep tonight, and then that we have all of these folks flooding into our country across our border, walking across our border, no idea who they are. A lot of them don't have identification. Most don't have identification. And then we bring them here to our country. They're right here. I moved into this rural area to escape all of that craziness. And guess what? JP Pritzker has shipped some illegals right here to my own town, if you can believe that. It's happening all across the country. And these people, they're here and they have housing provided, they have food provided, they have clothing provided, healthcare, schooling, everything is provided for them. They don't have to work for anything. It's given to them. They're given a stipend, a cash stipend. They're giving room and board. They have probably more food than most of us have to eat. And I hope that people wake up because these are the people who are definitely going to be voting for Harris because they want to keep the gravy train coming, don't they? Anyway, so to switch gears a little bit, there's so much more that I want to talk about today, and we'll have some updates. As a matter of fact, I did want to update. We had some breaking news earlier that, let's see here, that Johnson and Jeffries officially announced a bipartisan task force on the Trump assassination attempt. So I hope that they do get down to the bottom of it. I hope they do a valid investigation. We all, or some of us probably saw the hearing with Kim Cheadle, who is the director of the Secret Service, yesterday. I watched it. I watched most of it. Boy, they grilled her. They absolutely hammered her. Most of them did. And she, I will have to say, she was holding in there pretty well. I'm sure she's a strong female, but my gosh, and since that time, several people have demanded her resignation. I don't expect her to resign. I think that she thinks she was in the right, and maybe she was. Maybe she was the fall person, like someone said yesterday. And Pam says that hearing was a joke. I mean, nothing was ever going to come out of that. I think we all knew that. If she doesn't step down, she's not going to be fired. It doesn't appear. So I don't know where we're going to go with that. But, there's so many other things that I wanted to get into today as well. And we're going to stay on top of the attempted assassination situation. I think there's going to be news coming out as an investigation does continue. I think a lot of more eyewitness reports should come out. We'll have some more information on that. And we'll have to keep an eye on Kim Cheadle. And it's kind of funny because I know people are making fun of her because prior to her being the director of Secret Service, apparently she was over loss and prevention at Pepsi. So that's a big jump for being over loss and protection at Pepsi to being the director of Secret Service. I guess I need to look up her resume because there must be something in between that I have missed. Jay says these hearings never really get anything more than one headline. I've seen a lot of clips from it. I watched it, so a lot of it I saw. Then, of course, we had the one lady, I can't recall her name, who used her time, which they sometimes do, to talk about assault weapons. Of course, they've always got to get in the narrative about assault weapons. And it's kind of funny because someone I know made the comment, well, we really shouldn't have those guns. People shouldn't have those guns. We wouldn't have all these problems if people didn't have those guns. Well, I want to remind everyone, I don't think I have to remind too many of you, the criminals have those guns. The criminals are not buying AR-15s, legally, and of course I don't call them assault weapons either way, but they're not buying them legally. They are coming across the border with all the illegals, of course. Some of them are stolen, of course. They're buying them out of trunks and alleys. And if we ourselves don't have AR-15s, AK-47s, or whatever, what have you, then we're going to be underpowered. If somebody comes to your home and they break into your home, guess what? You're not going to be ready. And it's really sad, quite honestly, that the criminals have more firepower than our police officers do. I will never understand that, how that happened, how that came to be, how we allow it to continue, but it is. It is. And something I came across yesterday to kind of switch gears was that Elon Musk, I didn't even know this about Elon, but he lost a son, and I had no idea. We've talked about, not on this show yet, in other shows, we've talked about transitioning, we have a male transitioning to female, females transitioning to males, and it's a sexual transformation. And it's a big process, not only psychologically, but it's a big process physically. And Elon Musk, I'm going to share the clip with you. He talks about losing his son due to this process of transition. And I never knew this about Elon Musk. I've always been kind of questionable about him and not really sure what to think. Do we trust him? Do we not trust him? I feel like he's definitely on our side. But as I learn more about him, I'm understanding why these things that have happened to him have shaped how he feels. So I'm going to play this clip. It's only a couple minutes long, but I think it gives a lot of insight into Elon Musk and maybe why he feels the way he feels about some things.
It happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This was before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he.
That was a lie right from the outset.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
That's
so I was tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
all right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right, so let's.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that. And we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.
So the woke mind virus, and Kim, you said sad. By he lost his son. His son is dead. He didn't physically die. His son Zaire is just now a trans woman, but he feels like he lost his son, and because of this transition and how Elon felt about it, his son Zaire, which is I don't know his Zaire's trans name. I think Vivian. It's Vivian. So Vivian is now estranged from Elon Musk. So through the transition, through everything that took place, he lost his son. He didn't gain a daughter in this case, and some people do. And in this case, they don't speak any longer. But what about the woke mind virus? What do you think about that? The woke mind virus? I think we can interpret that in a lot of different ways. A lot of people, I'm not going to go. It's a very controversial subject, isn't it? It's very controversial, people transitioning. And it's become such a part of normal society that our medical books have been rewritten. Now you're designated female at birth, you're designated male at birth. Our bodies are obviously physiologically very different. And so when you look at it, go to any medical dictionary these days or look up any medical advice, and it will tell you, well, if you're designated female at birth, this could be wrong. If you're designated male at birth, this could be wrong. I think it's a really difficult transition for a parent to have to go through with their child. I really can't even imagine. And the reason why I played that clip is not only because I understand Elon Musk a little bit better, because he feels that his son was very liberal. He decided that he wanted to transition physically into a female. They lost contact. Again, his now daughter Vivian is estranged. And he blames it on liberalism. And it took me a long time to really come to terms with Elon Musk. When he first started speaking out and I first started reading about him, I thought, man, this guy's just trying to pull one over on us. He purchased Twitter and promised to open it up. Obviously gave Trump back his platform, which was wonderful. A lot of other people he gave back their platform. But I always thought, and I know so many of you did also, because I would see your comments in past shows. You'd say, I don't trust Elon Musk. I don't know what this guy's about. I've got to wait and see it out. And I felt the same way. And I think that Elon Musk is going to end up being one of our strongest leaders at some point in the future. I really do. I think that he is absolutely going to be a very strong conservative for us. And not only that, but think about this. He and his friends, I don't know which friends, they have donated. They're going to donate $45 million per month to the Trump campaign. That's per month. That's a lot of money. And Amy says, now we see why he bought X. Now I think I see why he did a lot of things. Again, hard to trust, but I'm starting to warm up to Elon Musk and I'm starting to understand what he's about. He feels that liberalism separated him from his son. And I think that's a very personal journey he's on. And I've not heard anything on it from Vivian and what her side of things are, but I think it's an interesting take on what Elon Musk believes. And that kind of brings me, have you ever heard of Operation Paperclip? I haven't. And I was thinking the other day about how liberalism, how does it get into the brain? How are we so divided? How are we have conservatives, we have liberals. Most of us are in the middle. I'm in the middle. I think most of you are in the middle. But then we have the folks on the very far right and the very far left. And trust me, the folks on the very far right, they are just as dangerous as the folks on the very far left. They are both, anytime you have fringe groups, extremism in general is very dangerous. The rest of us tend to fall somewhere in between. And I feel like I'm just right of center is where I feel like I fall. But we have those folks who are extremists. And so I wanted to play a little clip for everyone, a clip about the Operation Paperclip, as a matter of fact, because I had never heard of this. And it's something I'm going to have to research a little bit better to get a better understanding of. But we all talk about brainwashing and subliminal messaging and frequencies, a lot about frequencies. And Tara Berger says it's a great description: mind virus, social contagion, the woke virus. Absolutely so. But how do you get the woke virus? How are you infected with the woke virus? That's what I want to find out. Pam says, I think we were all waiting for the other shoe to drop after he bought X. We were too, and the shoe never dropped. It never dropped, or if it did, it dropped in our favor. And I love that he called the woke virus, because there's so much of that going on right now. And it's caused such division amongst us. And I want to talk about Marxism. I'm going to play a video here in a little while about Marxism. How did we become the people we are today? How did we become so divided? How do we have extremists? What causes extremism? And I think it's interesting, and especially since we've talked about frequency on the show before, how does frequency play a role in extremism? It's kind of shocking. So let me play this here for you.
The reason that all your computer screens are blue lit, the reason none of them are red lit, the reason none of them pay attention to circadian biology is because that original technology was developed in a government program that Bobby Kennedy knows about, and I happen to know about because I went to medical school at LSU. For those of you who've never heard about Operation Paperclip, you think it's all conspiracy theory. So at Tulane Neurology and Tulane Neurosurgery in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, the CIA started a program there where they would do all these crazy things to monkeys. The CIA wanted to see how they could control things utilizing different things like drugs and things like that. Where the neurosurgeons got involved, which is my clade, we would drill tops of the heads off, put wires into the thalamus, put electricity in there, and kind of see what kind of behavioral changes we could have. One of the guys that was in that program was a guy named Professor Delgado. When he saw that we could control the behavior with the wired device, he said, what if we do it wirelessly? So he checked it in monkeys and checked it in bulls, and it turned out you can do it wirelessly with RFID chips and semiconductors. Then the CIA took it to the next level. They said, well, since this is electromagnetic radiation, what if we did it through light through screens? And it turns out you can. And that's the reason why all your computer screens have the frequencies they have. So why is this all important? Well, the person that set this meeting up between me and Bobby is the patent attorney that made sure that Google and Meta have those things so they can control the things that we all do. Where did the original idea come from that started off in MK Ultra with the CIA? You're going to be surprised when you hear this. It came from the mafia in Las Vegas. They wanted to build a new city in a desert. They enclosed it all, blacked out the windows, invented slot machines that were blue lit. And they found out that they didn't have to take a gun, stick it in your face to steal your money. Then they even got smart. They said, let's give people free alcohol while they're doing that. And they found out they got the money quicker. And that's when the CIA got the idea to start this program. That's really how it started.
Isn't that very eye-opening? And it all makes absolute sense, doesn't it? Because we know frequencies, colors, it is a way of programming. They all affect us in different way. Pam says the movie The Kingsman is based off the same idea. They send out the frequency and everyone started to fight. Frequency is everything. And Pam, I think it was you that mentioned that you know of or have a bed that has frequencies, something along those lines. I'd be interested in that. It is very interesting to hear that clip and think about all the things we do and how we are controlled, particularly casinos. When you think about that, you go into the casino and you don't see the blue screen. You don't hear the frequency, but it's there. It's all there. And what is it telling you to do? It is programming your mind to become addicted to the gambling, to continue to put your money in that slot machine. You're there. And that's why if you've ever talked to somebody who likes to gamble, it's a high. It's like an addiction, just like drugs or alcohol or anything else. It's a high. And when you go to the casino, you have that elevated feeling, right? You're excited, and most people attribute it to the possibility of winning, and that's why they're all excited. But it's not that. It is the lighting, it is the blue screen, it is the frequency that they are playing. And then we got to start thinking, well, what other ways are they doing this to us? Some people think Wi-Fi. Is there a frequency to Wi-Fi that makes us all behave in a certain way? There are now, this is what's so funny is I thought one day, I'm just going to turn off all the Wi-Fi in my home. Believe it or not, I have 3 different internet services. I got a lot of Wi-Fi going on. I also have terrible tinnitus. And so I always wondered, is the tinnitus from spending so many years in radio with a big headset on my head? And I have very sensitive hearing. So I've been on a couple shows where the hearing was really loud. And I've always contributed the tinnitus to that. But then one day I was reading that it is sometimes your Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi can cause you to feel like tinnitus. And if you shut it all off, if you shut all your Wi-Fi off and leave it off for an extended period of time, how your body will start to heal. Your tinnitus will go away. Your brain fog goes away. Your body, you get into better shape, apparently, a better mental health condition. I don't know if it's true because I'm one of those people, I can't turn my Wi-Fi off long enough to know, and I can't be away from it long enough to know. Pam says, so why isn't it working on us? Yeah, right. It is definitely working on us, all right. But how else are they using frequencies and these blue screens to control us? Is that why, if Mayday uses it, is that why we're also addicted to social media? Is that why there are people who spend their entire day, their entire social existence on Facebook and other social media platforms? That is their entire existence. And you know what they're doing while they're there? They're absorbing things. They're absorbing news, headlines, other people's reactions. And of course, social media platforms, most of them, they feed to you what they want you to know. Even when it comes to your friends, I know that I've received several messages where my posts are being limited, due to whatever happens all the time to me. So we know that the algorithms made all these different companies, all of the social media companies, they all have algorithms, and their algorithms make sure that you get just the right dose you to see, right? But what about hearing? We can't always hear a frequency. Not all frequencies are obvious to us. And I don't know if there's a detector, something that can tell you what frequency is being played around you. Maybe some of you know that. I would be very curious to see how far frequency goes in our everyday lives. If you're out and you're driving in your car, is there a frequency that's coming through the radio? If you're watching television, is there an undetectable frequency that's coming through your television? When you're looking at your blue screen on your social media, what is really going on that you're hearing that you don't even know about? And then how is that affecting you and your choices, or affecting you in the way that you think? And I personally, I don't watch television news. Now, sometimes somebody else I know will have it on, and I never myself turned on television news. I don't watch it. So I feel like that saves me from some of the outright lies that we hear. Dottie says, remember subliminal messages over store intercoms? I do remember that. I do. And I think that's still happening. I think all of that is still happening. Charles, tinnitus is indicative of hearing loss. It could be, but I actually have extremely sensitive hearing. I have very sensitive hearing. So I'm kind of the opposite of that. And sorry about all of that. I also wanted to talk, because it's all part of the game, leading us into. I feel and believe that our country, socialistic country, we're heading on a very fast train towards Marxism, towards socialism. And I think sometimes we as Americans what is happening to us right now. Obviously, that's not a comparable situation, but you can compare the months in the months leading up to the Holocaust. What you often hear survivors say is that we didn't even know it was happening. There was one regulation, and then we got used to that, and then there was another regulation, and then eventually we ended up, obviously, where they were, voluntarily getting onto trains, some obviously not voluntary, and dragged out of their homes, in fact, kicking and screaming, and a terrible situation. And I can't compare anything that's happening right now, of course, to the Holocaust, but I think we all have to be aware of exactly that. Those little time take us there. And I have a video clip, and it talks about Marxism. We get into Marxism, and where are we going? And I wish I knew who this is. It is a Russian person who is in the Russian government. So I do not know his name, but I thought what he had to say was very, very interesting. So I'm going to play this clip really quick.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students. in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result?
Sorry, guys. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'm not really sure what happened there. If Facebook shut me down, someone did, probably YouTube. So I'm not sure if they're going to let me play that clip, but I really wanted you to hear it, but that's probably why they shut me down. So I'm going to try once more for those of you that may be able to hear me. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, Kim says you can hear me now. I don't know what's going on or why all of a sudden something changes to why the sound comes in and out. I don't know of anything going on. I'm going to see if I can change my connection really quick, if maybe that's the problem. This guys hear me? I think I'm back. I think I'm back. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because I'm talking about Meta, maybe they don't like me, or if this is happening. It looks like I'm back. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea why this is happening. Something to do with maybe my internet connection. I don't know. Maybe somebody's reporting me. I do not know. I know sometimes if you get flagged, it will do that, but it's just kind of strange that the same thing happened yesterday. So anyway, I am just going to carry on. Yesterday, I ended the stream and I restarted, and then I wished I hadn't done that. So today I thought, well, I'm just going to keep things going and see where we go from here. Like I said, I live in a rural area and I have 3 different internet providers. And so when it stopped connecting, I tried to switch it to another one and that didn't work. So I brought it back and here we are. So hopefully I can get to the bottom of that. I do apologize, but I want to go back and play that video because I think it's important to hear. So I'm going to try to go back and play that again.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people.
What do you think about that? I find that so fascinating because I so often think, as I'm sure all of you do too, how do people come up with the ideology that they have? It is programmed into them. We're not born that way. We're not born with ideologies, that are so extreme on either level, or we're not necessarily born to have a straight line of thought and never differentiate either way. We're humans. We're born to talk and to contemplate and to question things. That's within our nature, but somehow they program that out of us. Not out of all of us, but out of some of us. And Rob says he is so spot on. Good morning, Bill. And yes, I am short, even though you can't tell on here. And so I'm responding to comments, by the way. I think that is so spot on. I agree, Rob. It is so spot on. So where do we go from here? Do we wipe the slate clean and start all over? And we start fresh. Dottie says explains the generation labels like Gen X. It absolutely does, because each generation has a completely different mindset, and it is also interesting to me that, and we all know so many people where their minds are set. I'm one of them to some degree, although I feel like I'm open to learning and opening to listen, and I'm certainly not so hardline in one direction, but I know a lot of people who you cannot convince them. You can put the facts in front of them, and their brains, they just don't get it. They'll never get it. And then when you think we have an entire generation, or the majority of an entire generation, who has somehow been programmed, has been brainwashed to be so hardline on down one path, to where they don't listen to reason. They can't reason within themselves. You can't reason with them. It really does make me wonder, how do we fix this? How do we correct it? And the brainwashing, it's happening everywhere. It's not just subliminally, which I can't say that word, subliminally, something like that. It's not just at casinos. It's not just on the radio or television or in parts of our lives. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. And it's not just frequencies. It starts in the schools. These schools and these crazy school boards, and a lot of the there's some really good teachers we have in this country. There's no question about that. But we also know where the school boards are and who writes the curriculum. And of course, Obama with Common Core curriculum. We are brainwashing our children. We're allowing our children to be brainwashed. How do you keep that from happening outside of homeschooling, community schools? I know people say that they can't afford private school, of course. And private schools aren't always the way to go either way. Some of the private schools are the worst, the brainwashing and the programming. So you don't want that, but at least some of them. Community schools, I think, are a really great option. And I'm going to have somebody come on the show here at some point that's going to talk about community schooling. And Stacy, I don't know if you're listening, Stacy Kratz, she has a great idea. She's really connected with some schooling, which I'm going to have Stacy or someone she knows come on and talk about that. But anyway, community schooling, where neighbors get together, people who would normally be sending their kids as public school parents are getting together within the communities. And sometimes they're either hiring a teacher and they're all putting in a certain amount of money to pay the teacher, or they're taking turns and they're teaching themselves, kind of like a community homeschool. Instead of you teaching your children in your own home, your children are learning from various parents who are all sharing lesson plans. That's one possibility. Amy says politics have no place in schools. Dottie says schools equal indoctrinations. Dottie says, glad I grew up with cowboy shows, good guys, bad guys. I've been spending a lot of time on my personal Facebook page lately talking about exactly that. Some of these shows, my gosh, that we watched in the 80s. Now I'm an 80s girl. Some of you, grew up in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and so on. And we all know we all had our shows of our own generations. Mine was the 80s. I grew up watching Different Strokes and Facts of Life and All in the Family and, Good Times, all these different shows. And when I watch these shows, there's no way in a million years that they would allow those same shows to play now, which is crazy to me that you can go on special channels on your cable to see some of these shows, not all of them, some of them, but then they deleted a lot of the episodes. You can't see all of them. And I got absolutely reamed by a bunch of snowflakes on my Facebook page by talking about this. But I still think that I'm in the right. When I used to watch those shows, I learned a lesson. It was not about programming. They were lessons. We were able to watch these television shows, and you would see through these characters the mistakes they made and then the lessons they learned. And it was pretty easy for your brain to say, okay, well, this is that person's actions, and these are the results of those actions. And it really taught you that there are consequences to everything you do. And specifically, I think it was All in the Family, the one with Archie Bunker, the Bunkers, and Meathead. Was that his name? Meathead, Meatloaf, Meathead? I think it was Meathead. People have tried their hardest to ban that show from current television. And it kind of cracks me up because the snowflakes who want to ban All in the Family don't understand that show was actually created and written by one of the biggest snowflakes of all, Rob Reiner, who I loved his work on that show and many other shows as well. But he created that show, All in the Family, and he intentionally made Archie Bunker racist. He wanted to show audiences what it looked like to be a bigot, what it looked like for somebody to have these stereotypical beliefs in people of other races or other nationalities. And if you could remember Archie Bunker, I think that show was a little bit before my time, but I, saw a lot of the reruns of it as I was growing up. You can remember Archie would say some terrible things. Now, if you were to watch All in the Family now, there would be a giant disclaimer in front of it that says, be forewarned, because this show may not share your beliefs of inclusion and whatever else that says. There is some kind of crazy warning about inclusion and so on. And and the snowflakes in our country demand that show be taken off the air. And they don't realize that the entire show was created to show people, if you act like a bigot, if you act like a racist, if you have these beliefs, this is what's going to happen to you. it actually, watching these shows taught me to be a better person, to not be racist, to not be sexist. It taught me how to be a better friend, a better sibling, a better child. There were so many lessons learned in those shows. And unfortunately, we have taken all of the education out of our current programming, right? If you watch a kid's show today, there's no adversity at all. Everything's happy sunshine and puppy dogs, right? Because they don't want children to learn. They don't want them to be able to think for themselves. They don't want them to be able to see that if they make this mistake, there will be consequences to their actions. Why? I don't know. It actually boggles my mind. I feel the only way to deprogram people is to sit them down and have them watch these shows. And somebody, let's see, Bill said something about toilet paper commercials were controversial. I know, it's crazy. Stacy Jones, exactly, Tabitha. You could say it was reverse psychology. Back then we sat down to be entertained, to watch television. And what happened? We learned lessons, lifelong lessons. They're lifelong lessons. And we didn't even know it. We were being taught and we didn't know it. And some people could say, well, maybe we were brainwashed. I don't think so. I think we were taught some very valuable life lessons from those shows that are now considered to be racist. It's the craziest thing, and it boggles my mind. And I really wish that people would open their eyes and see what's happening to their kids right now, and understand that the programming your kids are watching, if you're sitting your kid in front of a TV, that is the wrong thing to do, because that is exactly the video we just watched. That's exactly what happens. So outside of that, I talked earlier about celebrity, and we know that a lot of celebrities have really thrown their opinion around a lot on social media platforms. And I was kind of hesitant to play this video because I don't know a lot about Dave Portnoy. I watch his pizza reviews. I think they call it One Bite, something like that. And I don't even really like those. I'm from Chicago and I like Chicago pizza. And I hate St. Louis pizza. I absolutely despise every last bit of it. And so I watch his show to say, hey, where's some good pizzas at? Because there sure aren't any around here. And so I do watch him there. I've never seen his sports show. I think is it Barstool Sports, something like that. But I thought it was pretty wild because seeing his videos on social media, I would have thought he would be some big giant snowflake. And I was really contemplating not playing this, and I probably shouldn't play it. I'm going to go against my better judgment and at least play part of it. It's really long, so I don't know if I'll play the entire thing. But man, he goes off on Biden and Harris and Democrats. I never expected this from him. Never expected it. And there's so much bad language. So if you have kids around, definitely use the earmuffs. And I don't use bad language. If you know me, you would know I never say a bad word. And I feel like it doesn't really belong in our language. I know I don't have anything against people who do, but I really wish that when people made these video clips, they would leave all the F words out of it so that it would be easier for people like me to play it online and not have to worry about getting kicked off. But, Facebook plays a lot of videos. I think they'll allow it. We'll see what happens. If I start cutting out or if I disappear from Facebook, I guess you'll know why. But I definitely want to hear you guys, because this is a rant of all rants, and it is absolutely fantastic.
Okay, I got to do another rant here, and I'm going to get, hey, pizza man, stick to pizza. Hey, sports guy, stick to sports. People are sending that. Hey, shut up, you're dangerous. Ironically, I'm sure the same exact people who were so outraged when, I think it was Laura Ingram's told LeBron to shut up and dribble a basketball. They were so outraged by that. But now, when I'm talking, they don't like what I'm hearing. Stick to pizza. If you're an American citizen, you care about this country, you're always allowed to talk about what's going on in this country. So those people who are telling me, Democrats of all people, who are always the most intolerant, which is crazy, the extreme left, when they don't like what you're saying, it's suddenly shut up, no debate. So you shut up. Now here's this rant. Again, I'm a libertarian. I'm very much pro-choice. I don't agree. I'm not religious really at all. So there's a lot on the right I don't agree with. But I fucking hate the left. I fucking hate the extreme left. And they are reminding me why I cannot vote for them. And I cannot vote for Kamala, because not even that they're trotting out Kamala now and they whacked Joe Biden, just like I said they were gonna. They trotted him out for the debate. The fact that they've hid for years that he was a head of lettuce from the American public. It's not that they go and say, hey, all these videos that the American people see of Joe Biden literally having a dementia moment and being out of it, deep fakes, not real. And then they just reverse course and literally force him to resign by threats. Who knows what they said to him behind doors or what package they came up with. Pelosi, Obama, Clooney, all pushing this old man down a flight of stairs. Forget all that. They did it fine. They hijacked democracy. No other way to say it. You know, Kamala, newsflash, ran for president in 2020. You know how many votes she got? 0. She was so disliked and such a bad candidate, she didn't make it to the first fucking primary. And I guess she's never going to have to get a real vote because she's been handpicked on purpose by the people who have been running Joe for the last 2 or 3 years. Now they're going to try to run her and trot her out. It's disgusting. It's a hijacking of democracy. They knew Joe wasn't fit before, and they waited. Fine. All that, fine. Take it with a grain of salt. For the Democrats, like a Rob Reiner, this is the tweet I saw of Rob Reiner that just sent me off. Democracy is saved. Kamala's running. And all these people now, Kamala, AOC, you just said it was a coup 3 days ago, AOC. Now, Kamala. The Democrats and the left, the way they shit on our face and tell us it's 80 and sunny is so infuriating. Just admit you hijacked democracy. Just admit you don't care if fucking Mussolini or a head of lettuce was running against Trump. You hate him so much, you're willing to trample on democracy, steal the vote from the American public, the most supposedly important right an American has, the right to vote. You have stolen it from the Democratic Party. You have said you don't get to choose who runs for president. We do. A group of elite, small people are going to handpick and shove down your throat who you vote for. Just admit that. But this democracy is saved and America is saved. It's the lowest point for democracy in my lifetime. Just say you hate fucking Trump so much you're willing to do whatever it takes to beat Trump, and it doesn't matter what rights you steal, stomp on, or whatever, you're willing to do it. If you say that, at least I'll have an ounce of respect. But this democracy is saved when you've absolutely done the worst thing for democracy. It's like we're a third world country now, the way this thing's being run. Just say that, and at least I can have an ounce of respect. And for all the people who are being, Dave, you're dangerous. Dave, shut up. Dave, what are you talking about? Stick to pizza, stick to sports. You know not what one person who has sent me a message or tried to explain, you know not what one of them has done? Explained how I'm wrong about any of it. They're just like, shut up, shut up, shut up. If one person can explain how anything I've said is wrong, I'll fucking buy you a fucking boat and be your captain.
There you are. What do you think about that? I mean, that was pretty powerful, in my opinion. Pretty powerful. And Linda says, worth listening to. I don't like the F word either. Pam, love Pizza Man. He is a truth teller. Yes, he is. Good morning, Annette. He is absolutely a truth teller. I mean, he said it like it is, didn't he? He said it exactly like it is. Rob says he's not wrong. Stacy's spot on, Dave. And if you, I'm not sure how many of you actually are familiar with Dave. Again, he has a lot of videos on Facebook where he goes to all these pizza places, and it drives me absolutely insane because he'll go to a pizza place and he reviews them with, I don't know, some ridiculous numbers. But he always says before he eats the pizza, before he tries it, he says, 1 bite, you know the rules or something. And then he takes like 10 bites before he says anything. So that drives me absolutely insane. But on here, he is spot on, spot on. And that's it. It probably happens to you too. If you're listening to this show, you're probably have similar thoughts than I do. Maybe not everyone, but you're probably posting and talking to people, and people are probably sometimes telling you, hey, stop talking about it. You shouldn't share that. You might lose friends or business associates, clients, whatever you may have. But they never have anything else to say, do they? They never have any recourse or they can't point out why you're wrong, right? So they might say, well, okay, you're probably right, but don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. You'll ruin yourself. Let's see. Joe says, if the F word is a problem for you, it's a personal mental problem for you, but not for normal people. I don't know about that. If you want to talk about bad language, I know it's common these days. Most people do use bad language, and I certainly tolerate it. I don't have a problem. I don't dislike people for using it. I think that there are better ways of using your words. I think that if F this and F that is part of your vocabulary, I think that it's better to leave it out. I think your point will come across a little bit better. It does kind of bother me in professional situations when people are like, F this, F that, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it belongs in the workplace, but I'm old school. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe that's the way of the future. I don't know. It's not me. I certainly don't think that it's a mental problem, Joe, for me or for anyone else. I think it's a personal preference. I think that if you want to seem professional, and I think if you want to, what you do in your own home is your own business. But I think if you want to seem professional, and I think if you want to put the best light forward for yourself, and you want people to respect you, I think that you should leave the F word out of it. And that's probably my advice to anyone out there. But you know what? To each their own, right? To each their own. That's one thing about us conservatives is live and let live. I believe if there's anything we are the party of live and let live. You do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And no disrespect to anyone who chooses their own path. That's for sure. So we're almost out of time. Something I wanted to get into before we go. If you've listened to me on prior shows, you know that I was always keeping in touch and, always trying to stay up to date on what's going on in Russia with Ukraine. World news has always been a big topic for me. We've been so busy with the election and with Biden and Trump and Harris that I haven't really gotten around to a whole lot of world news. But something did happen the other day that I really think that we should all take notice of. And Joe says highly intelligent people have a tendency to use curse words. Some do, some don't. I think that's all over the board. But either way, doesn't belong in business, in my opinion. Everybody's opinion is different. So some of the latest news with Russia. There's so much going on. I probably, along with a lot of other people, am kind of surprised that this entire special operation in Ukraine is still going on. Of course, it's only going on. It is only going on because Democrats have continued to fund it. If they stopped funding Ukraine, this would have ended a long time ago. A long time ago. That blood is on Democrat hands. All that bloodshed on Democrat hands. Now Russia has a problem, and I don't know what the world is going to react to it. I really don't. And that problem is that obviously there's a lot of fighting back and forth still between Ukraine and Russia. Now the other day, Russia attacked Odessa. And when they did so, we try to say that we don't have special forces in Ukraine, is what we always try to. If they're U.S. forces, if they're British forces, if they're foreign forces, then they're mercenaries. I've been telling you guys for a couple of years now that that's not the case. They're not always mercenaries. We have United States troops in Ukraine. There's no question about it, as does just about every country in Europe. So the other day, Russia attacked Odessa. I don't know if it was by drone or by missile, but either way, that attack killed 18 members of British Special Forces, as well as some British Special Air Service units, I should say, troops, as well as some French service members. And there were 25 injured, 18 killed. And this is going to, I think, turn into a big deal. it's one thing we know they lob missiles back and forth, drone attacks back and forth. That's been going on. They've killed a lot of mercenaries. They have killed a lot of Ukrainian citizens. A lot of Russians have died. It's all extremely unfortunate, extremely unfortunate. But now we have British troops, French troops that were killed. Now, there's a lot of questions that could come up. One, why are they there? Why are British troops, why are French troops even in Ukraine? Why are they in Odessa? Why are they participating? They're obviously not there for any reason. Some people could say, well, they're there to train Ukrainians. That's certainly a possibility. They could be there to carry out special operations, a possibility. But what I'm wondering is what's going to happen now with relations between the UK, France, and Russia. Are they going to hold them responsible for this attack? Maybe they'll keep it hush because technically they're not even supposed to have troops over there. So I think we'll see how that plays out over the coming days, if anything happens. I think tensions with Russia, boy, they're been at a boiling point for quite a while now. And Joe, with all his brilliance, says Republicans have been voting for the funding too, so it's a uniparty who are pushing us into nuclear World War III. Joe, I agree with you. It is absolutely a uniparty. I absolutely agree with you. And I've said for the longest time, I don't trust anybody in Congress, not the Republicans. I don't even consider myself a Republican, quite honestly. I consider myself a middle of the roader. I'm middle of the road. I do not belong to the Republican Party. I don't belong to the Democrat Party. I don't even know if I consider myself an independent, really. But the problem is that we have Trump, I think, is a lot like us. He's one of us. He's a middle of the roader, live and let live. And Joe, to your point, you're absolutely correct. Were many Republicans that signed off on that funding. And I believe we talked about Lindsey Graham yesterday, and I played that clip of Tucker Carlson, who was speaking about Lindsey Graham and how he is anti-Christian. He fights against Christianity. And it's so true. And so many other Republicans, unfortunately, do as well. I'd like to wipe the slate clean. I wish we could get rid of every member of Congress and start all over. Not in the way of Project 2025. I am against Project 2025. But if you look into Project 2025, which is something we will be doing on subsequent shows, and you really break it down, those rules are not for most of us. Those are extremist. Most of those Project 2025 bylaws are pretty extremist. But I really wish we could start all over, flatten clear the slate out, start from the bottom, work our way back up, a little bit like the guy said that was talking about Marxism. You have to wait. You have to wait and kind of clear things out, start building up from the ground up. And we need to do that. It's not going to be easy. And I don't know how we're going to do it. I really don't. But our Congress does not fight for us. Our Congress fights for their corporate donations. They fight with the lobbyists. They fight to line their own pockets, right? Who else goes into Congress, with a moderate amount of wealth and comes out a billionaire, multimillionaire? I think we know what's going on there. Pam says, let's see here. Nope. I'm not sure what you're saying, Pam, but I will go into my business meeting and try not to fly my F flag. Great show as always. Thank you, Pam. And I guess that's about it. It is 8:55. I guess it's time to go. But there's going to be a lot to talk about over the coming days. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot more about the Harris nomination. What's going to happen? Is Joe Biden alive? That's something if you weren't here earlier, that's something we covered, in the beginning of the show. Is Joe Biden alive? I think today a lot's going to play out. Either he's going to have to show his face, a proof of life, as Lauren Boebert said. I don't know what's going to happen. Joe says, wouldn't that be nice to start brand new with term limits and hold them accountable for bad behaviors? Joe, it would be my dream come true. It really would. And that's where it starts, is with term limits. You get term limits, guess what? You get people out. I'm not an ageist, but when people get to a certain age, they need to go away. They need to be forced to retire away from Congress. We've got to make some changes. And hopefully, I think against all odds, if Trump ever is back in the White House again, maybe we'll see some of these changes. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a long road ahead. And something I really wanted to talk about today, and I didn't have time, but I'm going to do it hopefully tomorrow. You've probably seen this on other shows. That's not going to keep me from talking about it here, even if you've seen it somewhere else, was the prophecy. I don't know if you guys saw that. There was gosh, what was his name? Brad Biggs? I can't remember his name, but I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, where he is a Christian prophet and he prophesized about Trump's assassination attempt. And he said that the gunman will miss and it will hit Trump in the ear. Now, he said Trump's eardrum would be damaged. That, I don't, as far as I know, didn't happen, but the prophecy was pretty darn close. And he had a lot of other prophecies as well for 2024, 2025. So I want to talk about that. So much more to talk about. Tomorrow we'll have a lot to discuss. Hopefully I won't have any continuing technical problems. We'll get all that worked out again. And if that happens, just stick around because it'll come back. It just takes a little bit of time to reconnect. I hope all of you have a great day. Again, this is Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. If you like the show, share the show. That is the only way we get the word out. And you know what? We've all got some ideas. If you want to message me a ticker with my email address, tabitha@tabithahassell.com, feel free to message me, send me your thoughts, send me your ideas. If you have any content, videos, anything at all that you want to share, I would be more than happy to talk about it. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a great day, and